So excited to have you on Wednesday Weekly Wisdom Guest Edition. And I'm fangirling because you're a fellow pageant girl, as well as so many other amazing achievements, which I can't wait to talk about today.
Thank
First
you.
of all, Miss Bethesda, Miss USA Family. Do you want to start by telling us about that? Because first of all, as a fellow pageant girl, I can't wait to hear more about it.
Yes, I joined last year, so I decided kind of that was something I always wanted to do and something that I kind of blends all the worlds that I exist in. So for me, I grew up doing print modeling and I still continue to do that to this day. And then also doing acting and philanthropy work. It kind of just blend everything together. So I was like, I want to be surrounded by more amazing women who are really passionate about using their platform and kind of just, living a certain lifestyle that I feel is really just encouraging other young girls to put their best foot forward and that they can do anything. And it was something that meant a lot to me as a survivor to kind of have the ability to do something that's so outside of myself and kind of take control back over my body and participate in something like that.
Yeah, that sounds incredible. You mentioned being a survivor. I know that you were so successful in getting a bill passed that's so transformative in your home state of Maryland. Do you want to talk about that experience and the results you're able to achieve?
Yes, absolutely. I started testifying in front of Congress last November, and I was super lucky to be welcomed with open arms by so many different members of our congressional cabinet. And that was really something that I was really nervous to do, but knew I wanted to and needed to do. And I started working towards my own bill, the Survivor Screening Act, which I'm still pushing for this year. And at the same time, I was in the Rise Justice Lab and working on another bill, which did get passed into a law to track rape kits in the state of Maryland. And we're continuing to push that across all the states. And so it was really amazing work to get to be a part of and kind of share my story, and super nerve-wracking at the same time, but it was really well received. And I'm super thankful for all the people online who were super supportive and calling in to help us get it passed, and then just everyone else in both the Senate and the House.
That's incredible. I'm so glad it had such a positive response and you're able to achieve that. I know that you'd said before, I think I read online that rape kits were historically thrown away. So to get that bill passed, it's going to make such a difference to people's lives. But
Absolutely.
I can't help but address the fact that that's such a personal experience. What gave you the will, the why to kind of share that and to make it public and to be able to achieve what you've been able to do with that?
Absolutely. I think everything I've been through kind of finds its way into the stories that I tell. And it wasn't until I joined TikTok that it became something such public knowledge. And I think a lot of people were asking, there's a common theme in all of the work that you do, and where does that stem from? And I shared not only my story, but the story of my friend who was trafficked and murdered in 2019. And that became something that a lot of people found resignation recognized and resonated with, and
Mm.
a lot of people started sharing their own stories, and I realized that okay, this isn't something that I went through alone necessarily, and that I have to feel ashamed of or afraid to
Mm.
talk about my experience at all. And it was definitely something hard for me, but it had been enough years where I was definitely in a place of really starting to heal. And I think over the past 2 years it was just I finally got to that place where I could openly speak about it all the time without, falling apart, and being
Mm.
able to really just stay calm in that delivery and realize that I wanted to help outside of films too and tackle the subject matter as much as possible.
I'm amazed. I'm amazed because I have to state that you're only 22. You've gone on this journey, which is deeply challenging, and you've been able to transmute a difficult experience, go through that healing phase yourself, and then utilize your experience to, first of all, connect with other people who having like have had similar experiences. And you can see that on TikTok, you're so popular, your content gets so much shares, and people really recognize and resonate with it. But you're 22. I mean, you started a production company. What is the driving force? All these things you're doing, from pageantry, to being an activist, to being part of the Rise Lab, to starting your own work and charity work and your own bills. And then you're a director, and then you're an actor, and then you're a model. Can you tell me what is actually behind all this? Like, if I
I really don't know. I think
teenager,
I'm just
what's
very,
driving
I think
you?
it's just honestly like for me, once I'm set on something and I know what I want to do, and I'm
Mm,
super fortunate, I've known what I wanted to do since I was 5 years old. And so I've had my entire life to kind of play around with what I wanted to do and mess
mhm,
up and take risk with my
mm,
storytelling and who I am and
mm.
acting and fall into what works for me and what techniques don't work for me for a very long time. I'm super fortunate for that. I'm super fortunate to have super supportive parents. And I think for me, it's just really, I don't like wasting time. And I am not afraid to be seen trying. And I think that's something where I'll always put my foot forward. If I have any interest in anything, I'm always going to follow that inkling because I'm like, what's the worst that can happen? I think it's a huge opportunity wasted if I just kind of sit and think about something and then later on I'm like, dang, I wish I did this. I don't really ever meet people who regret taking chances doing something. I mean, people who regret not taking the chance
Mm,
doing something. So
really?
I'm very big on let me just put my best efforts forward. And I just always like to give something my all. I don't like to do anything halfway. So I really just go for it. And if I fail, it's okay. I know that I can get up and try again, but at least I tried. And I think that's better than not doing anything at all.
I couldn't agree more, but it's not everyone's take on things, and it's such a unique take. That's why it's something that, we get accolades for, because you achieve so much with that mindset. And it's incredible that you knew what you're going to do at 5. What was that turning point? What was that thing that woke you up to, this is what I'm going to be?
So when I was 5, I was already doing print modeling and I was doing dance, and I was on a cruise ship with my family. And my dad asked to go see a show, and they were like, "Oh, you guys should go see Chicago." We got there super late because my grandma was taking forever to get ready. So we got in the middle of the show. It's not a kids show, and I saw them singing "He Had It Coming," Cell Block Tango and everything. And I was like, oh my gosh. And the monologue of like, Bernie, he liked to chew gum. No, not chew pop. I was like, I want to do this. I want to do this. And then my dad was like, mortified, and I was mesmerized. So he was like, we're going, we're leaving. And as we're leaving, I'm like, no, like I want to do that. And we passed like the playbill with all the photos and where these girls went to school and stuff. And I saw, and all I could barely read was like Juilliard. And I was like, what is that? And my mom was like, that's a big performing arts school, yada yada. I was like, I want to go there. I want to do whatever that is. I want to do it. Whatever that I just saw, that's what I want to do. And my mom's like, oh, great. Like, she wants to be singing and dancing about murdering men. But I just in general wanted to kind of collaborate all the worlds. I was like, I didn't know you can act and sing and dance and look pretty all at the same time and have makeup on your face.
Yeah.
And so my parents just put me in acting right after that. And then within that same, like a year later, I'd seen E.T. My dad brought home the behind the scenes of E.T. And I was like, oh my gosh, who is that? When I saw Spielberg, and that's like, that's Spielberg. He's the director. He tells people what to do. I was like, I want to do that. I want to be the boss. And then I knew instantly. And so I started asking my parents for cameras. I was taking acting classes. I was doing different shows. I was doing Lion King. I was doing these different touring things. And I was just in dance competitively. I was moving up as a dancer. I was doing more print work. I was traveling to New York. I started traveling across the country with different dance tours and then booking more commercials and more print work. So it was just this cycle of, okay, if it's something you're going to take seriously, then absolutely. And then I started doing summer intensives and going for it and doing professional dance. And like, I was like, they're paying me to do it, mom. Like, I'm getting paid for this. So this is exactly what I wanted. And even just like when I was like, okay, like I can do this, even if it's, just getting paid here and there. So it was really exciting and fun.
That's incredible, the journey you've been on. And clearly your parents have totally backed you in this. Like the ambitions of a child to put you straight into the classes to really support that. What are things that you
Okay.
think have been so pivotal in addition to that in your journey so far?
Absolutely. I think just having a support system was super great. And then also just being able to have a really great education. I'm so lucky to have grown up in Bethesda, Maryland, which is one of the top areas for education in the country. And
Mm.
I just was really fortunate to have parents who really provided for me and my siblings and just always made sure that we put our schooling first. That was the big holdback. My parents were always on board for my career of just as long as you go to school, you're not going to be a full child actor or move to LA because you need to make sure you go to school and have that as an
Mm.
option. And I'm so thankful that I do have that. And just going to school, I mean, I went to college as a minor and I finished high school at 16, went to college, and that was just a whirlwind of emotions for me, but I adapted so easily
Mm.
because I felt like I was really prepared for that. And it was really just what I wanted to do. And so I, took their words and put my own twist on it. I did finish my education just a little earlier than what was expected so that I could pursue my career and, going to college and experiencing that. And I'm really glad that I was able to have such a normal life and these normal teenage experiences
Mm.
compared to a lot of my friends who grew up in the industry and have been actors since they were children. I'm super thankful because as a director and as a writer, I really have those interactions to fall back on and to draw from when telling
Mm.
stories and developing characters. So that's really great.
That's incredible. I like the way you talk about education and the importance of it. I love education. It's something that I think is really important, but also continuous education. And you seem to have that embedded because you keep aspiring for new things, which obviously involve you growing and learning. Your story is incredible when you just look at it, like what you've been able to achieve. But that jump going to college younger, what are the things that really helped you there? Because you talk about knowing what you want to do, but I have no doubt that has challenges being in kind of more grown up spaces, fending for yourself, so to speak. What are the things that really helped you through that to then successfully come out and start running businesses? I mean, that's a massive jump. I can't wait to hear behind the scenes of that.
I think what helped me was just honestly being someone I've always kind of been the person who's like kind of friends with everyone, but at the same time, I'm very much I'm here to learn. Like I kind of go in and go out where it's like I'll be in social situations and I definitely would go out and go have fun with friends and things like that. And to this day, I still do that. But I'm always very like I'm here to learn this and acquire this piece of information, and then I'm here to move on. And the connections I make along the way are a bonus, but that's not my sole reason for going to college. So it wasn't really for me like a big thing. I went to a very strict school and I was doing multiple programs from two different schools at the same time for college in New York City. And I think a lot of people thought like, oh my gosh, I don't know how she didn't lose her mind. I don't know how, she's so sane. And I
Mm.
think it's definitely difficult and it was a rigorous program, but for me the big thing was okay, I'm here to acquire the skills that I want to in order to do what love and what I really want to do. It's not really about all this other stuff, and I just kind of kept my mind focused on everything that I wanted. And I used to have these little mood boards with different posters. I have like some right here but these different little posters, and I'd make this board and collage of what I wanted to achieve and what my end goals were in life. And so I'd kind of refer to all of those and just always pinpoint and, look at all the women that I was aspiring to be like and wanted to kind of be in a similar realm to. So I always focused on that. And that was just kind of what kept my head so clear and always made me want to just have that driving force and really
Mhm.
focus in on everything that I was wanting to accomplish later on.
I love that because it comes down to something that we know, like you knew exactly what you wanted. You went in there with that focus and you were looking at how am I learning, how am I growing, how am I picking up my skill sets to achieve what I want to pick up. And even more from what you're saying, picking up the stories that will later inspire you. So when you started Yellow Production, I know that you're really keen on sharing or at least having diversity all the way through your production, from you as a director to the script writing to the very final product. So where did that urge come to really want to promote that, to do that?
I I grew up watching a lot of different media, and a lot of the time I would
Mm,
not see a lot of myself reflected very properly. And I think
mm,
for me, growing up in the area that I grew up in as well, and just really seeing a lot of the behind the scenes of the industry or how certain
mm,
characters would be portrayed, that was something that was really important to me. And I had diversity all over my life, and I'm fortunate to have gained that going to college, but
mm,
primarily as young as I can remember, all the way through me graduating high school, it was pretty much not that much diversity in the area I lived in. So I'm super fortunate to have experienced that firsthand. And, I look at cities and other places like New York or LA and TV shows that would take place there, movies, and they would have, an all white cast or an all this. And diversity to me is not, just having all of one race or only having POC. It's definitely having everyone included and represented and properly
mm.
reflected. And for me, having a writer's room where people could definitely speak on themselves and their own experiences and contribute to these stories and help develop the characters and the worlds was really important to me, because I had so many friends who had different experiences growing up, whether they were in the LGBTQ community or
Mhm.
whether they were, someone who had autism, and being able to have those conversations with them and sit down and see what were your experiences in this situation, and have them develop the characters rather than me, someone who's kind of just going based off of what I've seen from other things, was super important to provide a voice. I think for me, at the end of the day, everything I'm always trying to do is just provide a voice to the unheard, no matter what types of stories I'm telling. So giving having a place to give everyone the opportunity to speak on their own experiences and
Mm.
really just touch on those subject matters is something that's always been important to me.
I love that. I kind of want to talk a bit more about that because you say a couple of things that really resonate with me and I'm really interested in. So one of that is you talk about properly being represented. And I want to understand what that means to you because I have my own ideas about that, but I'd love to hear your view on it. And you talk about also getting the right people in the room to kind of write the stories. So you went to college, you picked up stories there. Is it really important to you that people have that authenticity when they're kind of writing characters? So they have to have the lived experience. What's your view on it as a creator?
I definitely don't think everyone needs to write exactly what they know in terms of having a lived experience, but I think as human beings, we just have a collective of experiences that are across the board we can relate to, whether no matter what you look like. And I think that's something that's extremely important to me to incorporate into everything, is having a base storyline, no matter who this character is at the end of the day, that someone else is going to resonate with. I think a lot of my stories are about trafficking or sexual assault awareness, and not everyone I meet is going to necessarily have my story where they're going to say, oh, I was raped at 15 years old and this is something I relate to, and I was put in this situation, or I had a friend who was trafficked. But everyone can relate to the idea of what it's like to feel uncomfortable in a space, or everyone knows somebody who, everyone, the stat and the saying is everyone knows a woman, and everyone knows someone who's been put in a situation like that. Everyone knows what it's like to feel on your guard because you have an inkling in a setting where there's alcohol involved and you don't feel like leaving your drink, or, those kinds of situations people
Mm.
can relate to. So I always try and find what is the most base storyline here that just allows connectivity between the characters. And I don't think you have to have a lived experience in order to write about it. I think a big thing is you should just be fortunate enough to know people who have lived those experiences and have conversations about it. I think
Mm.
a lot of great writers who are white writers have written characters who were Black or developed to those characters, and they did a really great job sometimes because they had those conversations with Black people in their lives and their friends and their peers, and were able to sit down and have those actual conversations about those experiences and incorporate that into the character. And I think that's something that is extremely important to me. And just giving people the opportunity to share their experience versus another person's, for me, people in a big thing is like for my writer's room, for example, which I feel you would totally understand, is we have, we're going to have someone who is here in the United States who may be a white straight man telling me, what his day-to-day is. And then we also would have one of my peers who's in our writer's room was from Wales, and he's going to explain his experience over there, which is going to be completely different than in the United States. So it's really important for me to kind of cross all the borders across and just kind of see like, where do we relate and where do we differ, and how do we tell stories that bring people together in this way and kind of have these conversations. And I think that's a big thing. I know I have a lot of Black women in my writer's room who are located here in the United States. I also have a Black woman who is from the UK as well, and her experience growing up is very different than any of our experiences out here. And that's something that we are able to relay into the story that we were working on specifically, where her voice was needed, and really just have conversations about the way that things are run. And that's something that's huge for me, is just being able to have those realizations. And I think that's why it matters as much behind the scenes as it does in front of the camera. I think for me, I'm still learning. I never like to say I'm perfect or that I have everything figured out. I'm constantly learning, and I've definitely made mistakes as a director, as a writer, as a human being. And I think for a long time, like last year, I did a film with an all women set, and it was so amazing and super powerful. And I realized really quickly after that, I was like, I think I want to do something like this again, but I think I also want to incorporate men on the crew side, because these are conversations that men should be a part of and also be able to be included in, to have further understanding. Every time I would work with my DP on different projects, and he's a white straight man, he would leave with a new understanding of certain things, or he would say, watching you and hearing this experience XYZ thing. And I have a lot of men that I work with at my company, and them being, I would had a PA who PA'd for me, he did content for me, and then he went to another set for another well-known music video director who's a guy in the industry. And something he said very quickly is, I saw a very big difference in how you talk to your women talent and how you treat them on set and the way that you utilize them in the stories that you tell compared to how he was. And it was something that opened my eye. And he was lucky enough that they were friends, and it was something that got brought up. And then someone else, I would have a lot of men who would point this out to me. They're like, I've never been on a set where a woman has asked this. Or working with women artists in the industry, that's always been something where if I work with them and they are used to working with male music video directors, a lot of times they'd be like, I've never actually experienced someone asking me if I cared about XYZ thing. I've never experienced someone stopping the take and the production altogether to tell, wardrobe to ask for consent to touch my bra strap because it was sticking out or something like that. And I think those are just things where we're lucky enough to kind of blend the worlds, and then men take that and they learn, and I take things from them and I learn, and I make me a better director as well, working with them and having these worlds that cross paths. Like, we didn't all grow up the same or have the same experiences in life, but that's all we can do is share them and find where we connect and learn from each other.
I love that. And I love the idea of bringing people along. I think I'm going to sneeze.
Bless you.
Thank you. I think it's so important, like what you're saying. It really resonates. It really makes sense, actually. Instead of working in a silo, bringing people along on that journey and people learning through the experience, and that cross-pollination of knowledge sounds beautiful, the way you put it together. But I also want to reflect on something you said, like your vision boards, your mood boards, and I guess the things have inspired you so far. So when, as a creative, you seek to your influences that influence your art today, and the people as well, who would you signpost? Who are the people you're like, yeah?
I draw inspiration a lot from the people in my everyday life and from people watching in general. I love a good people watch, especially when I'm in New York. New York City is like my home, and I'm trying to leave LA so badly, but
I think you're quite coastal.
I get to go, but not as much this year and not as much lately. And ideally, I will just be in New York City. But I definitely love people watching and meeting people. I am always describing myself as an introverted extrovert. Like I can get along with people. I'm very social at like parties and things, but I also just love to keep to myself and observe people and take in information as much as possible. And I definitely draw inspiration from the people in my life and that I see in their stories. And I don't know what it is. I find that a lot of people usually open up to me about their experiences and stories. And especially when they hear my story, it leads a lot of other survivors to come to me and open up about their experiences. And I'm super thankful for that. And I think in terms of just people in the industry who inspire me, I'm always drawn to amazing women in the industry who are, you know, kicking butt and taking names and just unapologetically themselves. And they really have paved way and are working to hold that door open that they built themselves. I think, you know, Quinta is a huge inspiration for me and someone that I look up to, who also comes from a background of social media and stuff. And I think for me, that's definitely something I struggle with, is imposter syndrome. I get told all the time, oh, well, she got this because she's a TikToker. She does this because she's on social media. It's her following and blah, blah, blah. And I think for me, a big thing is like, I'm using social media to just share me in the film industry. It's never like other types of videos. And I think also just that was something that I was always doing first before social media, but seeing Quinta kind of own that space and utilize it to her advantage and really just own it and go from, you know, doing Vine to and BuzzFeed to being able to have her own TV show and her own company and all of that is super inspiring. And Issa Rae obviously is a huge one for me, and I was super fortunate to get to actually see her in action on the set of Insecure. And that was one of the very big things that changed my life as a creative altogether, especially as an actor. And just getting to experience that was super exciting and something that I am forever grateful for. And, you know, I just, a lot of different Black women in Hollywood I look up to, including ones who are my age or younger than me, Yara and Shahidi and Marseille. They are just really talented and two women who inspire me every single day. And a lot of wonderful people I know who have gotten the chance to work with them, and we've spoken in passing, and that's just been such a delight to even have those encounters. And they are just so talented, and two women who, it's always funny because I think the big thing is people always ask, you know, well, what is Yellow Rain Productions doing differently than, you know, Yara or Marseille or Viola or Kerry Washington or Ava or Issa's production companies? Because you're all Black women who all have, you know, you're all saying you want diversity and inclusion, but what are you guys doing differently from each other? And I think it's always interesting because we all have such differently lived experiences and we tell such different stories, and there's room for all of us. I think we make room in Hollywood for so many other types of people to, you know, tell the same types of stories. Why can't we do it here? And we're all going to tell them very differently, and we're going to put our own twist on it and bring our own voice to the table. And I love that.
I love that. And you put it so well, because every voice deserves to be heard. And it's definitely worth it. You talk about imposter syndrome, but often I think, you know, imposter syndrome doesn't just come from the individual, it comes from the systems feeding you data, right? Someone's asking that you, because there are other Black women, that they could only really be one of you. But it's a framework that even the framework of the question and the reasoning, when you think about it, it's completely ridiculous, because you wouldn't say, there's white man production company, white man production company. You're going to have one white man production company. So I really love you challenging that view, that there's space for everyone at the top, and incredible storytellers like yourself. And I'm sure in other conversations, people are name dropping you and saying, yeah, you know, it's you making the influence on them and inspiring them to want this career. But I can't not look to the future for you, because there is so much future ahead, and you've done so much already, and you've had massive jumps in your career already. So what's the next big jump for you that you're looking to?
I am hoping once the strike is over to get into the TV space. Um, Earlier this year, I was just super lucky. I have the greatest agent, and she, took my TV series that I've been developing for quite some time now, and was able to shop that, and it was looking really promising. So, post strike, I'm hoping to get that going again. And then currently I am in like official pre-production days for my first feature and everything, and that's been super exciting, and it's a multi-million dollar feature. So getting to do that as my first one has been overwhelming and super exciting, and I'm super thankful. I was just so nervous going into it, but the team is really great, and it's just a really powerful story that I'm really excited to tell. And I'm excited to film that. And we're in the strike, we applied for our interim agreement, and we're kind of just waiting for that to go through and everything there to happen. But aside from that, it's really just me focusing on the stories I want to tell, and growing my company has been a big thing for me this year. And during the strike, that's kind of been my focus of, I know I want to tell indie stories. And for me, I have a mentorship program at my company. So the ability to fund other underrepresented filmmakers' stories is something that's super important to me and I am passionate about. So kind of just been working on, securing an investment overall for my company, and getting to a place of, okay, now I have the finances and the means to do what I want and tell the stories I want when I want, and not need to go through all these hoops and bounds to do it. And I can support other underrepresented filmmakers at the same time and utilize that capital for them to tell the stories they want, and really just start pushing out content left and right. I think that's what's next. And then in terms of directing and producing and being a businesswoman and philanthropy wise, I'm just continuing to pass this bill and hoping that I'm able to do so. And the aim is to get an executive veto and just kind of get that out there and continue doing legislative work. I definitely think in the future, law
It's a
school might be
politician.
in the future. Yes, possibly. I haven't decided on being a politician because I think I have a lot more ability to get things done being outside of it. And I have this overwhelming fear after seeing so closely everyone in the political world. I know that it's definitely inevitable that you let people down, and I think that is hard for me. So it's something in the cards possibly, but definitely law school for me. I have my nonprofit that's a rising nonprofit. We are the Rising Youth, and we specialize on pro bono lawyers for survivors and the resources and providing non-traditional outlets of therapy for survivors. So like boxing and different athletic outlets and arts, and all these different ways for them to get out their expression and help them choose life rather than feeling alone during that
Mm.
time. So I think for me, a big possibility is going to law school and getting that finalized to be one of my own pro bono lawyers. And then pageant wise, still repping Bethesda for the next year and doing Miss Maryland round 2. And then
Nice.
yeah, so excited for that. And then I'm just super excited to, continue acting once the strike is over and print modeling and everything else. But I think I just kind of want to keep doing everything I'm doing now and keep growing at a scale that is, until I reach and have accomplished everything that I want to, and a lot more philanthropy in the cards and being able to incorporate that into everything I'm doing.
I love that. And I can't wait to see all the things you're going to do. Not just because they're amazing, but because I can truly see the positive impact your existence and the things that you do are going to have. Imagine just you in 5 years' time, if you're achieving what you're achieving now, Oh gosh, I'm so excited. Watch this space, everyone. Watch this space. I'm super excited. But there's a tradition here where we always end on three wisdoms that you would share with everyone watching this. So, what would be your three
Three
wisdoms?
wisdoms.
Yes.
Okay. Number one is I think that I think a lot of people look at everything I'm doing and they think that they are not doing enough. That's the number one thing that I get told. But I think I'd like to remind everyone that everyone moves at their own pace. And I think a big reason of the only reason I'm doing everything at the rapid rate is because of what I went through. And so I
Mm,
think a lot of people should definitely take time to breathe. I've been taking a lot more time for myself this year and allowing myself to really just sit in my feelings and sit with myself. And I learned a lot about myself and I'm still learning about myself. And I definitely have moments where I crash and burn. And I think allowing yourself time and moving
mm,
at a pace that is comfortable for you is super important. I think number two, I would say is don't compromise yourself for other people. I think this industry is extremely easy to kind of fall into listening to what everyone is telling you around you and really just feeling like, okay, if I want to make it, I have to do what this person says. And that's not the case at all. I think Hollywood is just one big game of how long can you stay true to you and how long can you hold out while still playing the game of showing face and networking without ever becoming someone else and letting other people tell you who you are. And
mm,
then number three, I think, I don't definitely, I would say the number one thing I get asked usually is people asking where do they start when it comes to
mm,
filmmaking. And I would say that is where do they start with filmmaking or like how do they get to do it all, because I know a lot of people want to act and do modeling and film. And I think the answer to both of those questions is honestly just creating a schedule for yourself and knowing what you want to do and being willing to try it out and fail, and know that even if you fail you can always try again. You're allowed to try again. You're not given one chance and this is it. You can definitely, you fall down and get back up. It's not about how many times you fall down, it's definitely how many times you get back up and keep going. And maybe you realize this isn't what I want to do, or this industry isn't for me because it's full of rejection, but you tried, and that's better than you sitting there and wishing, oh, I wish I did this, or I wish I gave acting a shot, I wish I gave modeling a shot, or feeling any sort of way. You're not going to know until you try, so you may as well always apply. That's what I always like to say.
those are some incredible wisdoms, and you're just a testament that wisdom is for everyone and everyone has a wisdom to share. Thank you for sharing your incredible wisdoms and your story with me today on Wednesday Wisdoms. Being an absolute delight. I can't wait to maybe speak to you in the future to see what else is going on, and especially as you go to law school and your philanthropy goes. I would love to hear more about it. But thank you so much for joining me today. It's been incredible. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You were so cool. Oh my God.
Thank you for having
God, be
me.
my mentor, goodness sake.
Thank you so
Right.
much for having me.
Yeah, let's keep chatting because genuinely I off camera, we just have so much in common that I think
Absolutely. I didn't
the
even
solid
say you did. When did you do pageants?
I
What
did
was
pageants in my early 20s from teenagers, and I did pageants, charity work, politics, deputy mayor. So some of the stuff that you're talking about is like I did that when I was new, and it's incredible. So I really think we should keep chatting because I think we're just going to have so much synergies, even if it's just, I think, to have someone who's in your corner,
Absolutely.
practically telling you, you got it, reminding you got it, you deserve to be in the room. Sometimes you just need a cheerleader. And I think we amazing Black women should do that for each other. So let's keep doing it.
Yes,
And I
absolutely.
thoroughly mean it. So I'm going to now message you all the time.
Absolutely. That's amazing.
Thank you so much. I will be pinging you those messages from now on, but I just wanted to really, really, say my big thanks